If you don't master your mind, it will master you, and it will do so with such subtlety that you'll believe it's just your way of being. The mind is like a wild horse. It can take you to the highest peak or throw you into the deepest abyss. The difference lies in who holds the reins. What's most dangerous is that most people live as if the horse guides itself, and they end up galloping toward destinations they never consciously chose. Since we were small, they teach us to read, write, add, but not to think, and much less to think in a way that our ideas work for us. That's why most don't lose in the street. They lose in their head, long before taking the first step. This book is not written for you to think positive like an empty slogan. It's designed for you to take total control of your internal dialogue, reprogramming every belief, every word, every mental image, until your mind stops being your judge and becomes your best ally. If you're capable of winning here, in the invisible battlefield of your thought, you'll win anywhere. Chapter 1. The battle nobody sees, but everyone loses. The most dangerous fight doesn't occur on war fields or in stadiums. It happens inside your own head, in silence, without witnesses. And what's most disturbing is that most people don't even know they're fighting. That battle is against the thoughts that try to convince you that you can't, you don't deserve, or it's not the moment. Thoughts that if you let them disguise themselves as logic and prudence, but in reality are chains. It's a strange fight because it has no schedules or rules. It appears while you work, while you dream, even while you smile, and it's not fought with swords or bullets, but with the words you tell yourself. Those short phrases that seem harmless. Maybe tomorrow. I'm not that good. I don't want to fail again. Each time you believe them, you take a step back without realizing it. The mind is like a guard at the door of your destiny, and that guard can be your ally or your jailer. If you don't train it, it blocks your path using the most effective weapons, doubts, distractions, and comparisons with others. That's why so many abandon their dreams. Not because they can't achieve them, but because they lose a war they never saw coming. Think of Alexander the Great. Before conquering territories, he conquered the minds of his soldiers. He made them imagine victory before leaving. He painted them such a vivid picture of triumph that when they arrived at the real field, their body only repeated what their mind had already lived. You also have an army inside, and it's formed by your thoughts, your mental images, and your beliefs. If you're not the one giving the orders, someone else will. If you don't recognize this battle and let it fight itself, you'll lose. But if you see it head on and decide that every thought that crosses your mind must pass through your filter, you'll always win, because you'll no longer live on autopilot. Here begins your training, and in the next chapter, you'll learn to identify the most common traps your own mind uses to make you lose before you realize it. Chapter 2. Signs that you're losing the war without realizing it. Most defeats are not announced with a final blow. They begin with small concessions that seem harmless. A not today that becomes a habit. A goal you leave for later because it's not the ideal moment. A comparison with someone who seems more talented, and that little by little steals your motivation. These are not simple distractions. They're cracks in your mental fortress. Cracks through which the most dangerous enemy slips in: resignation. Losing this silent war doesn't mean failing publicly. Many people who are losing it smile on social media, fulfill their tasks, and seem to function in life, but inside they've lowered their weapons. They settle for what they have, not because it's what they want, but because their mind convinced them it's all they deserve. That's the first symptom: constant justification, when you always find reason not to try something new. Another clear sign is the language of surrender. Phrases like, "What's the point now? It's too difficult," or "I wasn't born for that." That seem like simple comments, but that in reality are invisible contracts you sign with your defeat. Each time you say them, you seal a silent pact with mediocrity. And what's most dangerous is you do it without realizing it, believing you're just being realistic. There's also the spectator syndrome, that habit of watching how others achieve what you dream while you convince yourself they have something you don't. You spend hours watching, analyzing, and commenting, but not 1 minute acting. It's as if you were on the shore watching a ship depart each day, and although you have a ticket, you never board. And there's one more sign few won't accept: when you stop getting excited about what used to inspire you. If before you had ideas, energy, and plans, but now any attempt seems heavy or useless, your mind has already gained ground on you. It's not that you no longer have passion. It's that you buried it under layers of doubts. Recognizing these signs is not to blame you, but so you stop fighting with your eyes blindfolded. Because a battle you don't see, you always lose. And if today you identify them, you can stop the fall before it's too late. In the next chapter, you'll learn to regain control of your mind from the first hour of the morning, installing a mental defense system that will shield you against doubts and sabotages before the day begins. Chapter 3. The first blow of the day you give it, or your mind does. The most important battlefield is not at the office, at the gym, or in front of your competition. It's in the first minutes after opening your eyes. There, in that invisible space between sleep and wakefulness, it's decided who will give the first blow, you or your mind. If you give it, you set the rhythm of the whole day. If it gives it, you'll spend the rest of the day reacting instead of leading. Think of those minutes as a door without a lock. If you cross it first with intention, order, and clarity, you own the house. But if you leave it open and your mind enters first, it will install itself with thoughts of laziness, worry, and disorder, and evicting it later will be a much harder fight. Many lose this combat before putting a foot out of bed. The first thought they accept is, "I'm tired." The first gesture they make is opening social media, and the first act they execute is seeing the world before looking at themselves. Thus they hand over control without realizing it. It's not about cheap motivation. It's about mental strategy, because whoever gives the first blow conditions the entire fight. Think of the ancient gladiators. They didn't wait for the rival to attack, to start moving. They knew that if they struck first, they not only damaged physically, they also sent a message. I set the rhythm, not you. That same principle applies here. Your blow can be a power phrase, a physical exercise, a deep breath, or writing your objectives of the day. What's important is that it's yours, intentional, and that it happens before any distraction steals your turn. A simple but lethal technique is to prepare the action of your first blow before sleeping. If you decide it will be writing 3 things you're grateful for, leave the notebook ready. If it will be a physical exercise, leave the clothes prepared. If it will be visualizing your goal, put on the table the image or phrase that reminds you of it. Thus, when you open your eyes, there will be no negotiation, only execution. The secret is that this first blow doesn't have to be long or perfect. It just has to be yours and have direction. Don't wait to feel motivated. Do it, and motivation will come as a consequence. In the next chapter, you'll discover how to use your thoughts as offensive weapons, so you not only defend your mind from sabotage, but advance and conquer ground every day. Chapter 4. Your thoughts are weapons. Choose if you shoot or shoot yourself. Each thought you have is like an arrow ready to leave your bow. It can advance toward your objective or stick in your own chest. What's ironic is that most people shoot at themselves without even realizing it. Think of your mind as an arsenal full of ammunition. Some are precision, focus on a single target. Others are like shooting in the air, dangerous, unpredictable, and without direction. When you don't control what you think, it's like letting anyone enter your weapons warehouse and start shooting. In history, there are generals who won wars without having more soldiers, but using the strategy of directing each resource to the exact point. Napoleon, for example, didn't win by number, but by knowing where to place force and when. So it is with your mind. You don't need thousands of positive thoughts. You need a few, but placed in the right place and moment. The problem is we let the mind act like an army without a commander. If you don't give it clear orders, it will attack in all directions, many times against you. Each time you think, I can't, this is difficult, good things never happen to me, you're handing your weapons to the enemy and signing your defeat before entering the field. The solution is simple, but requires discipline. Each morning, before the world speaks to you, write or repeat out loud 3 thoughts that propel you forward. Not something generic, but phrases designed for your current battle. If you're building a business, it can be, every day I get closer to my goal. I am the leader my team needs. My decisions create results. By repeating them, you're not just talking. You're training your soldiers so they know in which direction to shoot. Over time, your mind will begin to attack automatically, but only at the targets you have chosen. Remember, your thoughts are not neutral. They either push you or sink you. There's no middle ground. And if you don't decide which one's to load, someone else will. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to shield your mind, so not even criticism, rejection, or bad news can pierce your armor. Chapter 5. The Invisible Armor Against Criticism. Imagine you go out on the street without clothes. You wouldn't take even a second to feel vulnerable, uncomfortable, exposed. Now think of the same thing, but at a mental level. That's how most people walk without any protection against the words, opinions, and judgments of others. Each time you allow a criticism or a negative comment to enter directly into your mind, it's like letting someone throw mud on your clean clothes. If you let it, you'll end up walking dirty without even realizing it. But here's the truth. Criticism only wounds when it finds a weak point. When you're clear about who you are, what you want, and why you do it, words bounce off like arrows on a steel shield. The samurai knew it. Before a battle, they didn't just prepare physically, but mentally. They visualized that they had already emerged victorious and created an inner wall that prevented them from doubting. When attacks arrived, they knew they could withstand them because they had already won inside. Today, your invisible armor is built with 3 layers. First, the layer of purpose, when you have a reason so strong that no opinion manages to move it. Second, the layer of focus to not waste energy responding to each criticism. Third, the layer of evidence, because if your results speak, you don't need to defend yourself. The next time someone doubts you, don't lower yourself to convince them. Smile, keep quiet, and keep building, because the best response is not a discussion, but a result impossible to ignore. Remember this. Criticisms are like wind. They can put out a candle or a fan of fire, depending on how firm your flame is. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to train your mind, so even on the worst days it stays focused, productive, and free from internal sabotage. Chapter 6. The discipline that's trained on the worst days. Anyone can be disciplined when they're motivated, when everything goes well, and when energy flows. But true discipline, the one that defines winners, is trained on the days when you don't feel like doing anything. Those days are like training with extra weight, uncomfortable, exhausting, but strengthening. If you can act when your mind says, I can't, you can handle any challenge when it says, I can. The ancient Spartans understood it. They didn't just train for battle. They trained in extreme conditions, cold, hunger, tiredness, because they knew that if they could perform under pressure, they would be unstoppable when they had an advantage. You can apply the same. Establish a list of minimum actions you do no matter how you feel. It can be writing 1 page, doing 10 minutes of exercise, reading 5 pages. The key is not the quantity, but the act of doing it even without motivation. Think about this. Discipline is not a muscle that activates when you need it. It's a muscle that's built every day, and hard days are the most powerful gym. Make a deal with yourself. No matter if you're tired, unmotivated, or in a bad mood, you'll fulfill what you said you would do, even if it's the smallest version, even if it's not perfect, because what's important is not perfection, but consistency. When you train like this, something changes in your mind. You stop negotiating with yourself and start trusting yourself. That trust becomes a force nobody can take from you. In the next chapter, you'll discover how to use this force to stop reacting to life and start designing it step by step. Chapter 7. Stop reacting, start designing. Most people live like leaves carried by the wind, reacting to what happens, changing direction according to circumstances, and believing that's normal. But those who master their thinking don't wait for life to tell them what to do. They design their path, and life ends up following their plans. Imagine you're an architect, but instead of building a house, you're building your life. An architect doesn't start putting bricks at random, doesn't wait for inspiration to arise. First, they define the design, measure, calculate, and then execute. That's how you should act with each area of your life. Designing means having clarity, not just what you want, but of how you'll get there. It means stopping living putting out fires and starting to turn on the right lights. You don't react to the problem, you anticipate it. You don't improvise your day, you build it with intention. A good example is Thomas Edison. He didn't sit waiting for inspiration to strike. He created environments, routines, and systems so inspiration wasn't an accident, but an inevitable consequence. Start each week asking yourself, What do I want to achieve? And then divide that into daily actions. Thus, when life tries to push you off course, you'll already have a map that returns you to the path. Designing your life is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. If you don't do it, someone else will do it for you, and you'll end up living someone else's dream. And the next chapter, you'll discover how to master emotion before it masters you, and how to transform it into fuel for your biggest victories. Chapter 8. Mastering emotion before it masters you. Emotions are like waves, some gentle, others so strong they can knock you down if you don't learn to read them. Most people live reacting as if they were leaves in the wind, happy when the breeze is soft and broken when the storm arrives. But a true winner understands that emotions are not enemies. They're signals, indicators that something needs your attention. The problem is not feeling. The problem is letting what you feel govern what you decide. Imagine an archer in full competition. In front of them, a perfect target. But just before shooting, they feel the pressure of the public's gaze. Their breathing changes. Their hands tremble, and although their technique is perfect, the arrow deviates. They didn't fail from lack of skill. They failed because they didn't know how to master what they felt. That's how it works in life. You can have the best strategy, the best plan. But if you let anger, fear, or euphoria cloud your mind, you'll make decisions that don't represent what you really want. To avoid it, the key is to create a moment of pause between what you feel and what you do. In those seconds, breathe deeply. Feel the air entering and leaving, and ask yourself, does this emotion bring me closer or take me away from my objective? This simple question is like an anchor in the middle of the tide. It forces you to take control before the wave drags you away. Don't confuse mastering with repressing. Repressing is putting a lid on a pressure cooker. Sooner or later it will explode. Mastering is recognizing, accepting, and channeling. If you feel anger, use it as energy to act with more determination. If you feel fear, use it as an alert to prepare yourself better. If you feel sadness, convert it into a moment to reflect and adjust course. Even in history, the great leaders we admire were not cold or insensitive. They were masters in the art of directing their emotions. Alexander the Great didn't conquer half the world because he didn't feel fear, but because he knew his soldiers needed to see him firm. Even in the worst battles, he transformed his own uncertainty into a speech that ignited the morale of an entire army. And that's what you must learn to do with yourself. Your mind must be like a general, and your emotions like soldiers. If you don't give them clear orders, they'll decide for you, and not always in the best way. The next time you feel you're about to explode or make a decision just because of the adrenaline of the moment, remember, emotion is your fuel, but you are the pilot. In the next chapter, you'll learn to keep your mind sharp when everything is going well, so victory doesn't become your greatest distraction. Chapter 9. Keeping the mind sharp when everything is going well. Success has a silent enemy, comfort. When things start to go well, when results are visible, the mind lowers its guard, and without realizing it, you start to lose the discipline that got you there. It's like a lion that stops hunting because it is food assured. At first, nothing happens, but over time, its instinct weakens and its strength disappears. History is full of examples. Empires that fell not because of stronger enemies, but because of rulers who became overconfident, warriors who neglected their training, entrepreneurs who stopped innovating because they were already leaders in the market. Poorly managed success is like a castle with open doors. You don't need a great army to destroy it. It's enough that nobody guards it. The key is in remembering that winning once doesn't mean you'll always win. Keeping the mind sharp is continuing to train, learn, and adjust even when it doesn't seem necessary. It's asking yourself every day, if I started from zero today, what would I do differently? That question keeps you awake, alert, and ready for the changes that will inevitably come. Many lose their way because they confuse the goal with the end of the road. They believe that reaching a certain point means they can now relax. But success is not a station where you get off. It's a moving train. If you stop putting coal in the boiler, it will stop and it will cost much more to start again. The secret to not fall into the trap is to have a new objective, even before reaching the one you have. That way, energy keeps flowing and your mind doesn't fall asleep. If you win a battle, you're already planning the next one, not from obsession, but from the vision that each achievement is a step, not a chair to rest on. In the next chapter, we'll unite all the pieces. You'll learn to think like a winner, live like a winner, and make your decisions, your discipline, and your vision stay aligned toward victory, not just for a moment, but forever. Chapter 10. Thinking like a winner, living like a winner. Winning doesn't start with a trophy in hand. It starts with the way you face each day. Winners don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They create the conditions. They don't wait to feel motivated. They act, and motivation comes later. They're not defined by what they achieve, but by who they become in the process. Thinking like a winner is filtering each thought, each decision, and each word through a single question. Does this bring me closer or take me away from my goal? It's not a filter to limit you. It's a filter to eliminate distractions and mental garbage. It means choosing what strengthens your character, even if in the moment it's uncomfortable. Living like a winner is more than working hard. It's living with coherence. If you say you value discipline, you act with discipline. If you say your objective is big, your daily actions must be equally big. A winner doesn't sell smoke, not to others, not to themselves, because they know their life is the greatest proof of their words. When you unite thought and action, an unbreakable identity is created. It's no longer a temporary effort. It's who you are, and from there victory stops being an event and becomes your natural state. Remember, each chapter of this book was a piece of a puzzle. First, you learn to recognize the invisible battle, then to train your mind to win, to protect yourself from noise, to use your emotions and not to lower your guard at the top. Now the rest depends on you. Live as if you had already won, but act every day as if you still had something to prove. That combination is what creates people who not only reach their goals, but surpass them over and over again. Now, the most important battle is not out there. It's inside you. And whoever masters their mind, masters their life. Today you have the tools to silence excuses. Stay firm when everything seems difficult and not fall asleep when success arrives. This is not a book to listen to and forget. It's a book to live. Each chapter you heard is a key, but it depends on you to open the door and cross it. Don't let this moment cool down. Take what you learned and act today, not tomorrow. Because if something distinguishes those who always win, it's that they don't wait to feel ready. They move, and on the way they become unstoppable. If this voice inspired you today, don't leave it here. Subscribe and join me in other audiobooks where we continue training your mind to always win like live, as if you had already won. Focus in silence until success shouts. Each one is a different training field, but all with the same objective, to convert you into the best version of you, and that version always wins. Because in the end, it's not just about reaching a goal, but about becoming someone for whom winning is already the only way to live.